Welcome to this episode of the Zombie Apocalypse podcast. The apocalypse means the lifting of the veil. And in this podcast, we endeavor to lift the veil and open up the minds of the zombies so that we can embrace true spiritual sovereignty that will lead to true freedom in this world.
Nice. And I can start with plugging our websites. My name's Geri, and my website is godislovetruthlife.com. I'll pass it to Darin.
My YouTube channel right now is just getting started. It is called Dunning Team Kruger Force because you always know what you don't know. This is obviously satirical. Dunning Team Kruger Force on YouTube.
My YouTube channel is just getting started as well, but it's called Decentralized Mind Control. I've got 2 videos up so far, and I've got plans to add some more in the future.
Sweet. So I guess I'll start since, since this is the beginning of our season, each of us are practicing talking about objective morality. So today's my turn. So so this idea of morality, there's 2 kinds, right? There's objective and subjective. So subjective basically is when somebody plays the role of, God or the all, and decides what is right and wrong. Whereas objective morality is outside of man's subjectivity. It's based on the universe, God, laws of right and wrong. And so what is right, what is wrong? Well, right is in not wrong. And wrongs include any harm to a sentient being. So that includes murder, assault, rape, trespass, theft, coercion, and deception. And this basically can be summed up in what's called the non-aggression principle. There are several principles in natural law, but specifically surrounding objective morality, otherwise known as karma in some Eastern traditions. And we're just, it seems simple, but it's actually really hard in our societal milieu that we find ourselves in right now for the past few millennia, for us to implement as human beings, because of sort of solipsistic or subjective moralistic attitudes that are kind of controlling the vast majority of the population. Just, reminding people of what's right and wrong, really de-occulting this information, since there are secret societies that have occulted or hidden this information from the masses to use against them for manipulation, and we've fallen for it. I can include myself in that category. And now that I am aware from people like Mark Passio and others, it's imperative that we speak out and educate the populace about this. Tried to get that done in a nutshell. It's kind of hard. Did you guys have anything to add?
What's right is always right. What's wrong is always wrong. Objective morality is very simple. Just something that does not do harm is not wrong. Something that does harm is wrong. If you do harm to another living being, and what the harm is violate the free will of any living being, it's wrong. It's very simple to classify any action as right or wrong. Just does it do harm to an innocent being, not in self-defense, just on the offense, do harm to an innocent being? If it is, it's wrong. And like the key why it's important to know the difference between objective and subjective morality is that if you don't acknowledge that of the two types of reality, like the one that is legitimate is objective, the subjective morality is a myth, it's a fraud. Um, then there's no connection that justifies like any form of government from one any authority with one living being has authority over another. That's completely wrong unless you uh, uh, period. That is completely wrong. Like authority is always wrong. Like to even believe in authority, you must fail to recognize that right and wrong are an objective thing. Like because any form of government involves violating rights. If government does whatever it does minus the violating rights, you realize it's not actually government. So the people don't realize that we're enslaved, like putting up with our rights being violated because the government has some type of mind control to have us call it government instead of slavery and not realize that it's completely a form of slavery. So that's really the point of our show is to alert people to that. And that's why it's a recurring theme. Each one of us are giving our own explanation about what objective morality is. It's really the key to freedom. Like if humanity understands that morality is objective, humanity can be free. If not, we'll make excuses to enslave each other. And we're going to talk about some other topics this week as well. Did you want to like bring up one of the next ones on the list, Geri?
Sure. I just wanted to add to what you said in regards to government. So obviously we should, and I kind of rushed through defining objective morality, and I'm realizing I need to slow down and define terms. But yeah, so for example, government. Govern comes from the Latin gubernare, to direct, rule, or guide, and then meant, the mind. So it's literally mind control. That's literally the etymology. So, Darin,
and mind control is necessary because we're if you want to enslave people, like you keep them in the cage, they don't have the ability to get the work done. But if you want to have the slaves free range, they're much more effective. But they'll run away unless they're under mind control.
Right. And the invisible chains are the ones that really get you, because if we were told that we don't have a choice, it's pretty obvious what our position is, but we often get the chance to choose who is going to steal from us, which parties are in control. And the thing is, like you said, Jeff, if government was completely voluntary, it wouldn't necessarily be government in the true sense of the word. It would be more of a mutual agreement, right? So if we all wanted to contribute a certain amount of money or resources each month in order for a company to come up and pick up our trash and recycling, I mean, that's fine.
If
It's
we could
just
set
that
to make that deal,
if you don't make that payment or don't want to be part of it for some reason, no one's going to come and put a lien on your property or something like that.
yeah, if you're forced to do it, your free will is violated. If you're not forced to do anything, your free will is not violated.
And to be honest, a lot of the things, I mean, like the school buses, I used to work in a manufacturing plant. Like the transmissions for those school buses are made by private companies. The at the end, the end user happens to be the school system, but some like their transmission components are no different than what would go into any other business truck, right?
Oh yeah, government claims
Airplanes,
that
everything that's manufactured is made by private companies and then sold to the government with our stolen tax dollars. So everything that we have we already do privately. It's just that we don't need to slap that property of label, you know.
People who
Uh,
advocate for government, they claim that we wouldn't be able to get big things done, and humanity couldn't cooperate and work together without government. And they give government credit for all the great things that humanity does, but those things are done with people. And other than the way we're doing it now, there's infinite ways it could be organized. The only thing is, like, it shouldn't be funded by stealing from people. That's what makes it government. They claim they have a right to steal people to fund things, but yeah, things could be funded other. The government doesn't actually do anything. They take credit for what people do, and everything they actually own is stolen. And most of what
and
they
they
say
can
is lies.
easily deflect criticism because they're not a natural person.
Yeah, it's like an imaginary entity.
I was talking to a friend about, like, how come it's very hard to find a private sector job that still offers a pension and 40 sick days a year. You know, you can go to websites and look up government jobs, and there'll be pension plans, insurance, 40 days of paid time off per year. And that's not even counting actual sick days. Okay, so what kind of private sector job allows this? And then I was talking to a friend of mine who happens to be a disabled veteran, and he's waking up slowly, but he basically said, well, I mean, I can't really relate to paying taxes. I haven't done that since I got out of the military. And I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying. You're saying it doesn't affect you directly, or that you actually benefit from it. However, what if you decided to own a company and you couldn't compete, right? So there's certain monopolies built in place. And he didn't necessarily see the problem with it, but I said, actually, our quality of life is going down, and government is incentivizing bad behavior. So if you get a government job, you can get your student loans paid off. But if you go to work as a plumber or a heating and cooling technician for a private company, or you're self-employed, you don't get your student loans debt wiped out. Okay, and then your employer for the plumbing company or the HVAC company cannot compete and offer you. It would cost more than they can afford to run the business if they were to try to match the benefits of a federal employee. So how is that done? Well, it's easy, right? I mean, if I owned a plumbing company and I said, I'm going to offer my employees like pensions and all this time off, and they say, well, I mean, boss, that sounds great, but how can you afford that? And I say, well, look, I just charge the people more money, and if they don't want to pay for it, too fucking bad. They don't even have to call a plumber. I'm still gonna charge them. I just do a ACH pull right out of their account. I maybe even garnish their wages preemptively. Oh, you see, now it's profitable. And then if inflation goes up, then I just charge them more for the services they use or don't use, or may want or may not want. And if they don't like it, fuck them. And if they don't pay me, then I'll just send an enforcer, and we'll collect on them. See, that's and then the private sector has to compete with a racket.
Right.
The public
Well,
school is another example of a government monopoly. People think private schools are so expensive, but the public school is actually much more expensive. It's just that everybody pays for it, and you don't realize how much of your taxes go to school, how much of it goes to other things. But even people without kids are paying for the public schools, and that's not fair. People like shouldn't pay for things they don't want or need. Like someone without kids wants to donate to a private school, or a charity school or something. That's fine. They're a free will decision, but it's not right to steal from people to pay for something. But since it's accepted that we're all going to be robbed to pay for this school, they could set the price and make it the most expensive school. And some people want to take their kids out of the public school because they're not really getting an education. They're getting an indoctrination to follow rules, or they're getting a poor education, or a wrong education that the parents don't want to pay for their kids. But after all that they pay for the public school and all the other services they pay for against their will, they can't afford a private school. But it's the second school you're paying for. That's why you can't afford it. And they'd have a lot more customers if the monopoly wasn't taking all the customers, and the demand would go up, and there'd be more suppliers. It would be the price of private schools would go down. Like the high price of education is caused by the whole monopoly of the school system, and that's just another example. Like everything the government's involved with works almost exactly the same way.
Well, I think both of you did a really good job of illustrating this concept of, as people make objectively immoral choices on an individual level, the aggregate, if you scale that up on the aggregate, you reap those consequences of those choices. And if you look at where we're at in consciousness, in our, we're in a state of slavery. Whereas if we individually and in the aggregate made moral choices, we would have a freer society. So we're reaping what we sow, essentially. This idea of karma or natural law, cause and effect.
Like the school system is like getting a good deal for, like the government's getting a good deal, but the public's not getting a good deal. Like they get away with that because they have a monopoly that's enforced. When you have any interaction between like two parties, like both of them should get a good deal, a symbiotic relationship, not one comes out ahead and the other one gets the short end of the stick. If you have that, instead of two winners, you have a winner and a loser out of the interaction, and just like more loss taken causes like we're all on the same planet with more losses, and instead of all wins, it's like half losses, and it just causes less prosperity on aggregate. So there's less for everything to go around. If some are takers, if we're not all creators, but like the monopoly means there's no consequence for giving someone a bad deal. Like they're going to have to pay for the school with their taxes anyway. Like they're a guaranteed customer whether they like it or not. But with the free market as opposed to government, you have the incentive to provide a good service, because if not, they're going to hire someone else. Like you're not forcing them to buy your product. Like they buy your product if they want to. If they don't want to buy your product, they don't have to. And the free market encourages that. Everyone tries to treat each other the way they would like to be treated, and you do better by that, by not victimizing someone. With the government, it's just like a competition, like who gets to get the better deal, who gets to be the highest rank in the hierarchy, and who gets to victimize more at other people's expense. And it's just it's not good for anybody.
I just wanted to speak about our return on our investment with our fantastic education system. I have an article here. It says 77% of students at Baltimore High School read at or below elementary level. Only 1.9% read at their actual grade level.
Can you send that to me over Telegram so that I can?
I can do that. And I don't know if this particular article is the most accurate, but I can tell you it's more than 50% of Baltimore high school students are functionally illiterate.
Well, And it's not just Baltimore, right?
And that was the only one that made the news, but I'm assuming that that's probably the case with probably a solid 1/3 of the country. It's everywhere. I see it in my area in Michigan and the Metro Detroit area. I mean, if you just like go like, I don't know if you have one of those apps that tells you what's going on in your neighborhood, but like, people will say something like, somebody broke into my car last night, just a heads up. And then you'll see
Like
the
next
comment,
door.
yeah, or neighborhood or whatever, neighbors, whatever they call it. But when you see the comments, or you see the comments on a Instagram post from something in your area, and you read the comments, it's very apparent that you're dealing with people that are less than fully literate. And sometimes you can't tell if they're talking to text or if they're typing, but because of the frequency of it, um, it's mostly illiteracy. Like, for example, people will say mind as well instead of might as well.
Oh
Okay.
wow.
Or people will say, like, um, is this anybody's dog? And they'll say, oh, that's not mine's. And I'm like, okay. And then sometimes instead of MINES, they will literally put MINDS, and I'm like, eh, so we're going from a corruption of a corruption now, and so there is widespread functional illiteracy in the workplace and in everyday life.
And that's by
So
design. An intelligent society is a
absolutely,
threat to government.
it's socially engineered. In societies where there was no literacy, people did not make grammatical mistakes as much as they do now. Just like when you used to have to memorize phone numbers because we didn't have contacts stored in our phone. And it wasn't very common for people to set up speed dial on a landline. We usually didn't, unless there was an elderly person or a child. Usually you just remembered and you had a phone book if you had to look at something. But our frequently used numbers we all memorized. And why was that? Because it's a hassle if we didn't, right? So in pre-literate societies, let's say um, Native American societies before European contact, or Proto-Indo-European and Indo-European societies that had no written language, and I'm assuming it's probably everywhere around the world, people's grammar had to be precise because there was no place for ambiguity, because there's no written record of something, and you can't really be ambiguous about your words.
Before
So
Google Maps, people would have to explain and understand complete directions
correct.
from one destination to the next.
And remember them, or have a hell of a time looking at a piece of paper. You
Right.
know what I mean? And or they would just get the directions written down one time, put them in the center console, look at them, and then the next time they go, they probably will not have to refer to them, or maybe look at them once, because we were used to creating mental maps of information in our mind, and that's a skill that we're losing.
Jeff, there's some background noise. Is there like a fan or something going in your
No.
location? Yeah,
You
it's
got a
just like this
window open?
constant worrying. I don't know. Yeah, maybe when you're not talking, thanks.
When he
Um,
is speaking, it sounds good though. So yeah, that's probably a
yeah,
good solution.
totally. Um, yeah, thinking about what you guys are talking about, the failure, well, right, it's working out exactly the way the education system was intended. It's based on this Prussian model of, yeah, just dumbing down the population so that they can be, good workers, and obey authority figures. And so we're getting the exact results from that design, and it's really, we're really in our efforts to spread truth. It's just so difficult because we're pitted against yeah, unfortunately, a dumbed down populace. I myself was lucky because I wasn't educated in that public school system. But yeah, like thinking about how I was educated and then seeing how kids are educated in the public school system, it's just like, I mean, there's just no comparison, unfortunately. Yeah. And just like even little things like what you were talking about, Darin, like with grammar, so like in private schools, I don't know if they still do this, but some of them, will you can diagram a sentence, and that's really important when you're thinking about things like neurolinguistic programming and mind control and rhetoric, the sort of negative sort of subliminal messaging we're getting all the time.
Passive voice, active voice.
Exactly. And just being aware of that requires, mastery of understanding, syntax and grammar and morphology. And that's just not, these concepts aren't even, not to mention history. They don't even teach history in public school, geography, like just
It's a
complete.
symptom too. I mean, if somebody can't speak a couple grammatical sentences about like a lost cat that you found in the neighborhood, what are the odds that this person will actually read a philosophical work? You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Because if they're not good with words and writing simple basic words about like what you did over the weekend, how can you what is the likelihood that that person will actually sit down and read words? Good luck. It's not going to happen. And the thing is, the social engineers are actively encouraging people like, hey, it's okay if there's no child left behind. We'll get you a diploma, then you'll go get a job, and maybe you'll even get a degree. And even if you suck at that subject, we'll spot you a couple points on the admissions. We're going to scrap testing as a standard because that's based in oppressive hierarchical systems. So the idea that you have to have a right answer is kind of based on you know oppressive patriarchy. And actually, truth is your truth, and we're going to admit you, and then we're going to give you a degree, and then you're going to go into the workplace like bull in a china shop and just fuck shit up. And then you can complain about how you're not getting paid as well as your coworkers, and we'll give you some DEI boosts, and we'll just shit tank the quality of everything. As opposed to just find somebody operating at a lower level and lift them up. We just lower everybody else. See, like, okay, has anyone ever read like the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass?
Yes. Excellent book.
How eloquent of a writer was Frederick Douglass? I mean,
Totally.
he completely blows away 99.9% of anybody currently in college right now. Literate as a motherfucker. How much did Frederick Douglass pay for his education? How much did you know all the other autodidacts? I mean, how much did Nikola Tesla pay for his education? How much did Benjamin Franklin pay for his education? I mean, like, if you had a library, you were like access to them, which weren't always free, but you know, families would have libraries. They would have the Bible, and they would have as many books as they could get their hands on. But basically, if you had an adult that would teach you how to read, the fucking world is yours, because then you can just read about anything you want to. And that's what I used to like about reading Rainbow. I mean,
I loved
seriously,
that
like,
show
just
when I was a kid
feed
too.
your
Yeah.
brain, and like
Mm.
that. Just if we could just inculcate a hunger for knowledge, that creates a demand right there, and then the 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 gloves are off. Like, we can do whatever we want to do. But that's what's going on right now, that the acquisition of knowledge is deemed difficult, and then people shut down. And we're not told that the reason why these some people are successful and some people are not is because of a knowledge differential. We're told that it's because of a wealth differential, but how do you think wealth is managed? Even if you have the richest person in the world and he's an idiot, he's going to lose his money. Okay? Unless he has some smart people helping him. Right? So basically, knowledge is potential power, but you have to apply it. But all of the power in the world without direction and accuracy and precision, it can just be destructive. I mean, look at how many celebrities, athletes, musicians are rich, and then they're working in a hardware store 10 years later because they didn't know anything about money management, wealth management, and despite their skills, didn't really have one that translated to a 9 to 5 in the workforce. Right. So it's fine. I mean, you don't have to be rich your whole life, but basically, it is knowledge. I mean, with knowledge, you may or may not succeed, but without knowledge, success is damn near impossible.
Well, and for the populace to access truth, they need to become, like you said, autodidacts and study up basically on these de-occulted materials, texts. Jeff, did you have anything to add to this piece
Yeah, I'm just
about?
thinking the real important stuff, that the knowledge that could grant us our freedom is the occulted, hidden information. The knowledge of psychology, how our psyche contains a conscience, and the conscience is something that gives you an alarm, and it alerts you if you're not in line with right and wrong. And yeah, and morality, there is a science to morality. It's true objective information that should be taught in school, but right and wrong is not talked about in school, or is taught that it's actually subjective, and people can say what right and wrong are. It's not built into nature. So yeah, the information that could make us realize that we own ourselves and we deserve freedom is hidden from us, and other information is taught to us instead. Some of it's false information, some of it's relevant, and some of it's irrelevant, and the relevant stuff people don't learn well enough, and if they go into the workforce and fuck everything up, that's a good thing too. They like the society engineers actually get more power the more they create failure and chaos for everyone else. It gives them a chance to pick up the pieces and become the savior, get people to think that we truly are dependent on government, and start asking for them to enslave us more. If people did not consent to the government, it couldn't happen. Like it only exists because people believe in it and contribute to it.
Right, and obviously, the sort of access to this knowledge is hampered, right, by censorship, especially on the internet. I don't know if we want to jump into that topic, or because for right action in the world, in the aggregate, going backwards, the behavior is affected by the thoughts and emotions, and the thoughts and emotions are affected by the knowledge, and the access to knowledge, if it's not a full spectrum of what's really out there, like in our class, for example, that we're taking with Mark Passio, his website was clearly being shadow banned, and he's one of the few voices out there talking about natural law. And so, yeah, what are folks' thoughts thoughts on the problem of censorship, how we battle it?
Oh yeah, Mark Passio is someone whose work should really be distributed uh, much more proficiently. Like our podcast, we've got the same objective to enlighten the world about true morality, so that humanity can be free. And we're going to try to do as good of a job as he did. But we're just getting started. I want to remind everybody, check out What on Earth is Happening. It's an awesome podcast. Look at it from episode one. It's really a masterpiece. It's a wealth of knowledge. But like ancient history, can be debated, because like it could have been recorded wrong. Like the whole empire of Tartaria. Some people say it existed. Some people say it didn't. I don't know, but and a lot of things about ancient history, I don't know. And it shouldn't be taught as fact, because no one really knows it as fact. The versions they teach are wrong. But some of the more recent history, where old people alive today remember these times, or maybe their parents remember these times, um, like something that keeps getting repeated in history is when the freedom of speech gets totally abolished. Just like very similar to the freedom to bear arms and defend oneself. Uh, Whenever society does that, quickly just turns into hell. Like before the communist USSR, or before Nazi Germany, they said, like, we're gonna come in your home and lock you up if you speak against the narrative that we want to teach people. If you say something that contradicts like what we're saying is the mainstream message on the news, we're going to lock you up. And that's starting to happen all over the world. There's threats of it happening here in USA. And
Notice that governments around the world don't even crack down on like human trafficking and child abuse like they crack down on guns. You know,
Right.
look in Japan, like I mean, or Sweden, or Denmark, or Norway. Uh, if you were to ask a government official, like, how many people carry a pistol on a daily basis? They'll be like, absolutely zero, fucking unacceptable. And it's like, how many kids get abused? And then they're like, well, that happens. I mean, we don't like it, but it happens. Like, you can see their priorities.
Right.
Yeah, sorry for cutting you off. I was just saying, like, both rights are very essential, and we've discussed before, and like we shouldn't stop discussing about like how important the necessity to defend yourself and be able to carry arms are. But and when that right gets taken away, society just descends into hell rapidly. The point I just wanted to make clearly, though, is like freedom of speech is just as essential for freedom in general. Like, but whenever either one of those things like starts getting violated, it just goes to hell. Sorry to interrupt, Darin.
Oh no, I completely agree. I mean, because the right to self defense is the ability to respond to violations of your rights. So depriving you of the right to speak and depriving you of the ability to defend your rights are one and the same. They're both violence, right? And there's two kinds. I mean, there's two kinds of people. There's people who are slaves and people who are not. And people who are slaves have the right to speak when they're fucking spoken to and when their masters tell them to speak, and they're not allowed to defend themselves unless master tells them to go fucking do something with a weapon. And that's where we're at as a human species. I mean, uh, ever since I was in kindergarten, I used to get pissed off when people said you can't just take the law into your own hands, or you got to have a teacher do something, or you got to tell the
Right.
authorities. And I'm like, do you know how many times I tell a teacher on the playground or somebody like, hey, this kid hit me, and they say like, well, just walk away, and I get tired of getting hit, and I lay some kid out, and then they're like, oh, why'd you do that? You know, uh, we are told from the time we're a kid. Mark had covered this in his early podcast. They say it doesn't matter who started it, just stop fighting. No, it really does matter. And I know as an adult, when you're trying to sort out an issue, two kids screaming doesn't help. But you're like, oh, it needs to stop now. But it does really matter who started it. It always matters. It's the only thing that matters, really.
It definitely
Totally.
determines like who is right and wrong in a conflict. Who violated someone's rights first? Violence is force that does violate rights. Defense is force against violence. Now, like everyone has the right to remain unharmed, but uh, you can lose that right if you're harming someone else because everyone also has the right to remain unharmed and to defend against uh, remaining unharmed. You got
Defending yourself is nonviolence, right? If you are defending yourself against violence, you are committing the anti-violence, right? I mean, to
You're using force. Yeah.
yeah, you're using force. I mean, you are resisting violence. You're doing the right thing. In fact, by not resisting, we're potentially making things worse. It reminds me of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto. Parikshit Maharaj was talking about the by curbing the dishonest miscreants, one automatically benefits the offenseless living beings. So, in the true duty of a dharmic king or monarch is to uphold the rights at of others, whether it's good for him or not. Like whether he dies in the process of defending other beings' rights. He has a position of power. His job is to defend what is right, even if it kills him.
+1. Keep going.
yeah. When the guy tries to violate someone's rights in the first place, like he should fail and learn a lesson. Like, hey, I can't get away with doing that. And you're failing to teach him that lesson. You're empowering him. You're actually teaching him the contrary, false truth that you get rewarded in life by violating people's rights, and you get away with it. You're
Honest
teaching them
work
that
is
by
for
firsthand
suckers.
experience.
That's how they get the idea that honest work is for suckers. I mean, every day within a 5 mile radius, I get two or three notifications that there were cars broken into, and people don't even lock their cars anymore because they don't want their locks or their windows busted. They just try to
Mm.
keep valuables out of the car, and at least if somebody opens the door, they don't see anything valuable, they move to the next car. Or people go into their garage and steal lawnmowers and tools and stuff like that. But you know why the people are doing that? Is because they're not afraid that somebody's going to kill them or hurt them, right? Because
Yeah.
the homeowner has to go to a job. They don't need to be handcuffed to a table in the police station because they broke some dude's legs with a baseball bat. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Because they're gonna say, "Oh, you shouldn't have hid in the bushes and nunchuck the hell out of that guy." Like, why not? They're my bushes. It's my property. Like, but honestly, like the wide scale shoplifting, retail fraud, theft, and trespass happen because these criminals are empowered by the government. They have rights. I mean, I'm all for defunding the police and abolishing governments. Just tell your criminal friends that tell them goodbye in advance because if we abolish the police and there are no prisons, it's
then there's a real consequence for the rights violators.
Exactly. Like nobody's coming to help you. Nobody's going
Reminded me,
to
I
get
really
you
want to
over.
make
You're going to get dead, and then we're going to move on.
from last week. I just want to say, like, even though we're saying like how to strategically make the military more effective, don't lower the standards to accept more people. Like, I don't advocate for like making our military more effective. I think like they're the tyranny that
Sure.
drives us. Like,
Yeah, I'm just saying that the ridiculous nature of that. It's like they don't even care about skills or competency. Um, it's more
Yeah.
about like just ideological stuff, even at the highest levels. Like if you
Right.
have a certain IQ, there are police agencies that will not hire you, and having a high IQ is not a protected demographic. There have been people who have been denied a job as a cop because their IQ was above 135 or something like that, because they realized that these people are less likely to follow orders.
Hmm.
So you can't discriminate against certain things, but it's not considered a disability or a protected demographic, and therefore legally have every right to say, "Wow, what a great resume! Look at your skills." You're not getting the job because you're more likely to be, well, you're smarter than your commanding officer, and you might not take an order to do something stupid or immoral, and they can't have that.
Right. I wanted to go back to this idea of like how important freedom of speech and freedom to bear arms is so important. And I just realized in listening to you guys that it's like it's all about the non-aggression principle and the self-defense principle, right? Like in terms of the non-aggression principle, you know, through education, through our speech, we're trying to change hearts and minds so that people can stop doing harm to, you know, sentient beings themselves, other people. And in terms of the self-defense principle, right, like that's obvious. Like if someone's transgressing or violating against you or your community, you have a right to defend yourself. And so, yeah, this concept of authority that is sort of taught to us from a very young age in the school systems um, takes away the sense of self-defense, because it's like, well, I'm giving that to an authority to take care of rather than myself. Um,
Look at how many people are victims of crimes because somebody impersonates a police officer and then kidnaps or assaults or murders somebody. No, but if they weren't wearing a fake badge or a uniform or a real badge or a real uniform, right? Because people are often abused by agents of the state who, even beyond the scope of their duties, take information from the law enforcement information network, or they get an ID because it's like crack. They got to have their ID. Like, let me see some ID. Do it now. And then they take the ID and then they harass this person outside of work. Women have to deal with that a lot. Um,
people knowing of the self-defense and non-aggression principle is a big threat for government. It's a real direct threat if people exercise their self-defense principle. And the freedom of speech, freedom to bear arms, they're both all about the self-defense principle. The right to bear arms, it's definitely about the self defense principle, like physically, but like the mental chains are what really hold people back, and the mental chains can be the false ideas, like the the propaganda that people don't own themselves, that authority is legitimate, and like that's accomplished by lying to people, and like the self defense against lies is to speak the truth, and you know, by exercising your right to speak freely, you could speak the truth to defend against lies that keep people enslaved. So yeah, it's all about like the self defense principle for speech, as well as the right to bear arms, but on the mental level. And the mental level is the causal level of things that actually happen. Like uh, you defend yourself first on the mental level and stop someone from doing the attack. If that doesn't work, then you defend yourself on the physical level, and hopefully you have the tools to do that effectively. But not just the self-defense principle, the non-aggression principle. You know, indirectly, people don't have a problem with violating the non-aggression principle, and uh, because they think that obedience to government is a virtue, and contributing to government by funding them or participating in whatever ritual gives them credibility, like the voting or jury duty or whatever. All this stuff, or taking a government job, being an order follower, like, uh, well, then you're violating the non-aggression principle directly, but even through willingly paying taxes and just being obedient, like willingly contributing to the government, uh, you're empowering someone to go on and violate the rights of others, and you're violating the non-aggression principle as well.
Right.
Yeah, and Darin, did you have anything to add to what Jeff said?
Oh, like I completely agree. And even if you're doing a job that can be done by a non-government worker, let's just say you're an electrician and you're working for the government, right? Well, you're getting your pay and your benefits from theft. You know, even if you're not directly in the line of duty violating people's rights, your whole paycheck is a violation of everyone's rights.
Totally.
I was an electrician working for the Navy, and like I'm not working for the Navy anymore, and yeah, it feels good to, yeah, to be making an honest living.
Yeah, and kind of tying everything together, right? Whether it's censorship, which violates our right to stop deception, or whether it's attempts to take away arms, which, you know, when we're being violated in the form of murder or assault. I think it's really important to not get caught up in the my sort of freedom concept, right? Like, we are speaking for the benefit of all that are suffering under the slavery system. And, um, you know, I also would like to think about combining um, the non-aggression principle with the self-defense principle, and say, talk about how important it is for us to form local militias to defend and combat the very real scenario of us needing to, yeah, not just defend our own property, but each other in communities. What are your thoughts on that?
100%. That's the absolute most unpopular um, thing for the media and the government right now. Like, they would rather have you like mainlining heroin on the subway than fucking forming a militia. You know what I mean? They would
Yeah.
rather have you strung out on heroin and Ozempic and McDonald's and listening to a TED talk about minor attracted persons
Ugh.
and illiterate.
Is that a thing?
Oh yeah, oh
Oh
yeah,
God, I haven't been paying
yeah,
attention to
yeah.
that. Oh
You know
goodness,
the Kinsey spectrum people.
gross.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And or to be a trained Marxist and live in a multi-million-dollar house in a multi-million-dollar neighborhood. Bernie Sanders never worked a real job in his fucking life. It's been a mooch his entire life talking about socialism. What a fucking loser. And like those are the people that don't want militias. I mean, there's like I'm in Michigan, okay? So imagine being from Michigan and say, "Hey, bud, I'm part of a militia." Like, what do you think the reaction you're gonna get? It,
Who
oh
cares?
shit, you're
Fuck
like
them.
one of those crazy Michigan militia guys, you know? And the thing is like that's part of the psyop, like
Right,
anarchy, right? It's become a shibboleth, you know. Don't say,
right.
don't say gay, no, don't say anarchy, don't say militia. Like that's the real taboo right there, right?
Keep talking,
It's just
Darin.
um the I mean, it came up after like the Pulse shooting in Orlando. Like there were self-defense advocate groups. Like the media may have shown like maybe 5 minutes of that, and then that was the end of that stuff.
Right.
Because there were people who were like, yeah, like we could have defended ourselves, except guns weren't allowed there. That's a gun-free zone. We're all adults, but our guns are at home, and yeah,
Mm.
there's I don't know if it's been, I don't think it's been enacted, but there was a bill proposed in Congress in the U.S. To ban, well, it's like unauthorized militia groups. I mean, if it's authorization, it's already not a militia, but essentially, like
True.
there's politicians that have put forth a bill to basically ban private citizens from conducting military esque tactical training in groups of 3 or more. So literally, like a mom and dad and two
Wow.
children could be considered an illegal militia. And if you're shooting like a silhouette and you're like practicing shooting like standing and prone, you could be considered like a potential extremist group. I mean, forget about other countries. No one's going to even have a chance to fucking do that anyway, unless they're working for the government. But I mean, in the U.S., they're literally talking about you got your magazine limits, right? So if a gang of MS-13s show up at your place and they're trying to squeeze you for the quote unquote rent money, who needs a 30-round magazine? There's 6 guys. You're basically Dirty Harry, right? All you needed was a revolver, right? They're all gonna just wait there and make sure you can place a shot. And you're never gonna miss because who misses, right? So nobody needs a 30-round mag, right?
The
Mm.
the
It's
Constitution,
ridiculous.
it's not really a sacred thing. It's not where our rights come from. But when the colonies in America decided to rebel against the feudalism and declare independence, they tried to create a new society without government. But not everybody was on the same page. Uh, too many of these people that rejected the old wanted to start a new society with government. But some people like who are accepting the society with government because it's better than the feudalism. It's a lesser degree of slavery. They still wanted to put some things in writing to safeguard the new society from being enslaved as bad as in Britain, and it didn't happen. Like it didn't work. Like it has become more tyrannical than it was when we were living under a king. Uh, but like the Bill of Rights was something made with good intention. It's to stop the government from violating certain rights. And I have to look it up sometime and tell you the specific articles or tell the podcast, the audience, the specific articles of the Bill of Rights. But they talk about well, in the Second Amendment, it talks about we have the right to bear arms to defend against tyranny, and also I think part of the Second Amendment is what says we should have militias. But like the well-known, commonly repeated part is a small part of it. I think it's part of the Second Amendment, like Article 11.
So the Second Amendment is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. So the first
I think it's
part
longer
is
than that, or I might be talking about a different amendment, but
the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed is the independent clause. The dependent clause is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. So
what I wanted to bring up was
the state of freedom.
standing armies. Standing armies was mentioned, and standing armies is something that is forbidden. That it's mentioned in the Bill of Rights that standing armies is contradictory to a free population. And we have standing armies now. They're known as the police. We weren't even supposed to have police in this country. We started having police to go round up runaway slaves. They were like slave catcher squads that evolved into the police department. But they got people to accept these standing armies because they're thinking, oh, they're for them. They're not for us. They're for the runaway slaves.
It was supposed to be an emergency.
I got the quote, you guys.
They
I got the quote. So it says, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
And I know what Jeff was talking about too, about standing armies. And when the founding fathers defined a militia, they defined it as
it might be
the body of the people. And you're right, Jeff. When it comes to funding military, Congress, yes, in the original documents of the Constitution, it's illegal to have a standing army and standing police force. They were only supposed to be temporary.
I want to say one more thing about the Second Amendment, just about the commonly repeated thing, like a clear translation of it. Like it doesn't say anything about target practice or hunting, or even defending yourself against like a common criminal who's trying to rob you, which you definitely have the right to use weapons to do. It's defending against tyranny. What that means is we have the right to bear arms to shoot the cops and the politicians in the face when they when they threaten our freedom, and they do. They're the ones that inherently threaten our freedom by doing their job. I'm not saying that's wise to do. I'd rather live for the cause of freedom than die for the cause of freedom. Like
I'm ready to die. I don't want to live under slavery anymore. And I don't want my kids to
stand up and do it when it's necessary.
We create a culture and a society where when somebody gives you an order or claims authority, you just laugh in their face and be like, hey dude, I don't know if you like missed your meds today, but like you don't have any fucking authority over me, all right? So maybe just take a walk before you get fucking hurt, you know? That's where it needs to go. We need to inoculate and give ourselves a preventative jab against slave think programming. So when somebody claims they have authority, you just say like, yeah, you have the right to go fuck yourself. Actually, just make people like averse to being ordered around, because otherwise they're gonna look at you like you're the one with the problem. And even if you're not wrong, like I would hate for our work and our movement to be in vain. So like essentially it's kind of a Noah's Ark thing like right now. Like we got to kind of protect the freedom movement and not do this stupid shit that they want us to do. They would love for something to go down so that they can take more people's rights. I mean, that's why they're constantly fed posting on Telegram and other groups trying to say, hey, what if somebody were to do this? And then they can blame that group, like the whole setup with Governor Whitmer in Michigan, the whole thing with Timothy McVeigh, like, or Sirhan Gun Control Act of 1968.
To
Okay,
go on a
they want us to do some stupid shit so they can get the public to authorize complete slavery.
It's within our rights, but it's not a wise thing to do because
Correct.
we
They want to entice us into making a stupid move.
But it's important to remember, like the freedom to bear arms, the right to bear arms that they acknowledge that we have. They put it in writing in the Second Amendment. It is to be able to defend against them. So it's bullshit to limit our type, like the capacity of our magazines or the type of guns. Like California has a roster, only certain guns are allowed to be owned. We should be able to have more firepower than the government. We should be able to take on the government, so the government cannot be a threat to us.
Yeah. Unless they have something to hide, right, Jeff? I mean, why do they care if we have really good weapons? I mean, do they plan on doing something shitty to us?
Yeah, that's another thing. They gotta let them hide, like their secret information, and like they expect us to cooperate with them. Like if they want us to cooperate, they should at least tell us like what they're doing. But if they're not telling us like, everything they're doing and we have to cooperate, it should be obvious that we're in a condition of slavery.
What happens when we try
People are conditioned to reject that notion.
What happens when we try to have private communications? What do they do then? They pinch the CEO of a company at an airport, or they ban a platform entirely, or they simply just completely poo-poo your messages anyway at a server level, like they did with
Telegram,
the Telegram CEO
from hell and X and Twitter and all that. Yeah, I mean, so they have the right to their secrets, but God forbid you try to keep something private. See, people don't realize that, like, even Google, like the internet in general, like it was funded with our taxpayer money, but it was the ARPANET. It was advanced research projects. Like, this was a Department of Defense operation. This is like we have a network that's publicly funded, but the actual keys for the under the hood existence of this whole cyber infrastructure is proprietary to the government. There's no fucking Elon Musk coming to save us. You know, fucking Jeff Bezos. These clowns. You don't become a billionaire, especially a tech billionaire, and put satellites in the sky without the government having the skeleton key to your company. You're allowed to say whatever funny shit you want to on the internet, but when it comes down to it, they will delete you from the earth if you don't play ball. Like, there's a reason why Bezos and Musk and these guys become tech billionaires. They've cut a deal. Like, they've been made an offer they can't refuse, and they go along with it. I mean, there was this controversy with Apple saying they care about people's privacy. And how long did it take for the FBI to be able to break into any iPhone? A couple weeks? I mean,
Right.
and it's just because someone decided to make us think about it on the internet. They never needed Apple to do that. They never needed Blink or Ring cameras. Like, they never needed a warrant, and they never needed the company to comply. It just made it easier. The companies were trying to say, look, I don't know if our customers are going to like this, but it doesn't matter. The government could tap into your Ring camera and not even tell Ring about it, and could punish Ring for telling you about it.
Someone told me that I don't have the right to use the internet to discourage people from participating in government because the government created the internet, and it's their.
Who
You don't
said
have the
that to
right to
you?
build your own cell phone either, Jeff. You don't have the right to fucking have your own ham radio station. You don't have the right to fucking fly a hot air balloon. Like, bro, they literally claim dominion over the airwaves, a certain part of the electromagnetic spectrum, plants existing on the earth, plants existing in that you put in your body. I mean, like, bro, it's a complete claim of ownership on the elements of the universe.
One of my family members said that to me. I don't want to call anyone out specifically.
That's fine. I understand. I was just curious if it was on a forum or something. Well, that Darin segues into another conversation topic, which is plant medicine, which is another highly regulated space, and for good reason. Just the way censorship, freedom of speech is being targeted, the freedom to bear arms and form militias is being targeted, and so is plant medicine, right? Because these are all solutions to the state of slavery that we find ourselves in. What are folks' thoughts on plant medicine? Do you guys want to share maybe any awakening experiences with it, or talk more generally about it?
Yeah, the powers that shouldn't be definitely don't want us waking up to realities that they didn't provide for us, right?
Right.
So if I mean, if you have any kind of psychedelic experience, you're going to feel like you're connected to something greater than yourself. That's the first thing. They do not want you breaking out of the parameters of dialectical materialism.
Dude, mic drop.
That's the
Keep
main
going.
one.
Yeah.
With marijuana especially, they don't want trauma-based mind control to be broken. So you start smoking weed, and you start you know there is a huge correlation between marijuana use and the development of mental illness, especially around adolescence. But the thing is, adolescence is when repressed traumas come into the foreground of the psyche as somebody approaches adulthood. So they're
Right.
doing this shadow work as they're growing up. And the thing is, marijuana and other entheogens, and especially psychedelics, um, sometimes violently shake the delusions out of us. And so, like, there's people who would say, like, oh, yeah, my dad was in the military and my grandpa was in the military, so I want to be in the military. Then they smoke a little weed and they're like, bro, fuck that. No, I don't want to do that. Like it opens up your mind to other possibilities, and it really does. It can bring up repressed memories, and they don't want you to process your trauma in an unauthorized way. They would rather send you to a therapist. They would rather get you on SSRIs. Not to mention, like, most school shooters and mass shooters were all on fucking SSRIs prior to
Whoa.
or during um, these mass murder rituals. Um,
Dude.
and the thing is like,
Shootings to ban the guns.
right. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And they need that pharmaceutical industry to monopolize on human suffering. Plus, if suffering eventually gets alleviated, well, there will be less revenue for psychiatry, which means less campaign contributions, which means, like, if you think about it, all these industries, especially medicine, and psychiatry and all of their affiliated agencies and fields like social work and child protective services. Like, if people heal, think about it. If people heal, then they won't need government. Essentially, that's the long and short of it, right?
True.
Short story long. right? If we fucking heal ourselves, there will be no need for them.
Dude.
That's it.
Yeah.
Same reason why they don't want a cure for cancer if they're running a fucking oncology business. We will make them obsolete if people can defend themselves, people can heal themselves, people can trade and speak freely among themselves. Literally, that's obsolescence for them.
Right.
That's the long and short of it.
You know, I had a bad toothache. I ended up having to have the tooth pulled out, but like all the painkillers, they have acetaminophen, the prescription ones, the over-the-counter ones, and they wear off. But the pain is so bad. Like I want to take it before I should take it by the schedule that's based on the acetaminophen not destroying my kidney and livers, my kidneys and liver. So I was just stuck suffering. So to stop from suffering, I went and got the kratom, and the kratom, like, it takes away the pain completely, just as effectively. It wears off kind of fast, but I'm not afraid to take it again. It doesn't have acetaminophen mixed into the recipe to damage my kidney and liver. And like they could make those opiate based painkillers without the acetaminophen. But they don't. The reason they give is like to deter you from taking too big of a dose and getting addicted. But it's beneficial for people to be addicted. They end up addicted and destroying their liver, and then they take more medicine to fix their liver. I was mentioning this to someone who works for the government with big pharma, and this person was telling me that like I shouldn't do anything that's not FDA approved because like the FDA has access to all the studies on all the different medicines, and if it was like, good and useful, like kratom, if hypothetically kratom was a helpful alternative that didn't have any bad side effects, they would have approved it. And if it's not approved, there's got to be some reason. This person's just lying to themselves because they don't want to admit their job that pays so much is an unethical job. But it's the same lie they tell a lot of people to go along and just sacrifice their health just for ignorance and nothing else. It's a bad
How many vitamins are FDA approved, Jeff?
I didn't hear you
again.
How many vitamins are FDA approved?
Right.
Oh, I don't think any of them are, huh?
I'm done taking vitamins. Let's see how long I live. I'm gonna have a vitamin-free diet now because they're not FDA approved.
There's vitamins in everything.
I'm just gonna eat white rice, but I'm gonna overcook it to make sure there's no fucking vitamins in it. You know? Yeah, that'll go well.
Yeah, like it's just I, in my own journey, I didn't start plant medicine until I was in my like late 20s, honestly, because I was just so programmed to just not even try them, and I just started, and then I was like, oh, that propaganda. Like I grew up in the 90s, and we would have this like DARE program, and that worked on me for a while. And as I grew up, and what really did it was like I was hanging out with like a lot of poets and writers, and they were smoking weed, drinking, blah blah blah, and like I just observed that they were okay, and I was like, okay, well maybe I'll try it then, and the rest is history. But I was just gonna add, Jeff, marijuana is really good for pain management.
I don't want to talk for a long time. I just wanted to add something to what you were saying. Like, I actually encourage kids to do what you did and wait till they grow up and finish developing to experiment with drugs. Because they do have a lot to offer, but they can also they kill brain cells. But if you're the amount of brain cells they kill are negligent, but the brain cells like reproduce exponentially, and like one brain cell of a kid could like branch out into like millions of brain cells that they're losing by the time they grow up. So like yeah, I think like minimize marijuana, alcohol.
Increase neuroplasticity, but I agree with Jeff. Is that like let your brain develop? I agree, Jeff. Yeah,
Sure.
like too young, it might distract them from normal development. Also, the context and the setting of the use of the
Absolutely.
substance, right?
Right. I will say this though, we have this conception that, you know, plant medicine, okay, let's delay it, but then, you know, the like TikTok, right? Like think about the neurological effects of that, you know, just the blue light and just the constant attention changing dopamine, how that works in their bodies, in their minds. So like this idea that like, oh, one form of, you know, chemical induced altered state is okay because it's mediated through a screen, whereas the other one, you know what I mean? What are
Yeah,
your
a lot
thoughts?
of people in my family have smoked marijuana, and none of them have tried to kill themselves when they couldn't get marijuana. But one of my teenage family members got a phone taken away as punishment and attempted self harm. So think about that. You know, 16-year-olds can't smoke weed, but you take their phone away and they're, trying to find something in the medicine cabinet to do the permanent delete. Like what the fuck? It's orders of magnitude more addictive. Because not only that, not only are they addicted to the cheap dopamine hits of the validation in the content, they're also stimming. So they're also like kind of developing some kind of pseudo autism to where unless they have something to fidget with, the fondle slab, the fidget spinner,
I fucking love that
rubbing your
word.
legs, going like this, whatever it
Mm,
is, you're
yeah.
stimming because you have to have constant stimulation. So there's an internal feeling of dis-ease. They're uneasy unless they're constantly consuming this content. Okay, so and if you're uncomfortable when you're alone, then you're in bad company. So
Wow.
you're if you can't be alone without some kind of entertainment stimulus and you spaz out and try to kill yourself, then that's a problem. And unfortunately, that's the way most society is. Trust me, there's plenty of adults who will be like at the end of their rope if they lose my fucking sports ball. You know, what if ESPN went down? Like, what if somebody like what if ESPN went down? What if all entertainment media went down? Just deprive a full-grown adult from all sports and entertainment, or even music, for a week, and see if they're not, about to lose it. They
You just
will.
described my brother. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's whatever it takes to fucking avoid themselves. Like, it's the last thing they want to do is be alone with their own thoughts. And, you know, what does that tell you about the state of the average human being? The I believe it was Blaise Pascal, the philosopher, Pascal's wager. He says the majority of man's problems, or all of man's problems, are the result of man's inability to be in a room alone. Seriously, that's your insanity test. Spend 24 to 48 hours with no entertainment and not speaking to another human being for that time. Like, go get a motel room, unplug the TV, turn your phone off, put it in the drawer, and just be a person who's alive without any entertainment or conversation for 24 to 48 hours.
Can we be in nature? Would that?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine
good.
too. Yeah, but like
Not,
literally just like
I
no
think if you're in nature,
conversation.
you're not really alone with your mind. Like if you're just like locked in a room, because there's plenty of stimulation in nature. You could go for a walk and look at the beautiful scenery and like watch the animals. Like
I would encourage, if
I would encourage
possible,
going in nature more, but I'm just saying it's
nature's fine, but I would encourage people to even go to a sensory deprivation tank and float in some Epsom salts and water, and with no light, no sound. Like I want people to know what it's like to be alone with their thoughts and their thoughts only.
Have you
Uh,
done that?
yeah.
Me too. What was your experience?
Uh, I mean, if I could afford it, I probably would have just rented the place out for a whole day or the whole week. Like,
Nice.
I mean, it's the most comfortable thing I've ever done.
Did you see anything?
No, I don't see things. I would need
Hmm.
probably some assistance. Shrooms. I tried a edible THC. That wasn't enough. I don't see things.
Did you
Um,
hear anything when you were
no,
in it? Oh, okay.
no. But I did feel very, very, like, look, it was only an hour session. It wasn't really long enough. But I did feel very comfortable. I was aware that I was floating, as in I wasn't asleep, so therefore I wasn't dreaming.
how
I
much
wasn't really
how much does it
perceiving
cost?
anything. Like, you could find it for, like, if a good deal, probably 50 an hour. Sometimes it's a little more, but if you get multiple sessions, I highly recommend it. The first time I ever did it, it took a while to relax, to where maybe in the last 5 to 10 minutes before my session ended is when I got really relaxed. And then the second time I was able to relax much quicker. And but essentially it was just a state of pure awareness. And there were times when I was in a hypnagogic state where I started to, like, go into a dream, but I let it go. But if I wanted to go into, like, a lucid dreaming type of scenario, I could have, but I specifically wanted to have, like, a zen float the last time. So I literally wanted no conscious activity going on, but just pure awareness. Um,
Nice.
but I mean, I was highly considering constructing my own type of pod at home, because it's just a matter of, like, getting all the Epsom salts and maintaining it, cleanliness and all that. But there's other ways to do that. You can use blankets, or just room temperature, and maybe, like, um, you get your body as comfortable as possible, and then you do some progressive muscle relaxation, or whatever relaxation method you want, a little gummy or something like that. You can get yourself pretty close to um, complete, like, physical anesthesia while still having your mind aware. But yeah, just analyze the contents of your own mind, because let's just be real, like, if your mind is in a safe place, you're pretty much fucked for life.
True facts.
Nowhere in this world is good is going to be okay if your mind is a bad place.
True fact, dude. Um, yeah, your mention of a float tank reminded me of an experience I had while in one. I, at a certain point, felt like I was in floating in, like, a complete, like, it just, like, in space. Like, I just, like,
Yeah,
saw, like, galaxies and stuff. And that's what I was asking if you saw anything, because, like, for me, I just saw, like where I ended and where space began. It was just all the same.
I
was
could
just
feel
like
it. If I
nothing.
had more time, maybe I would have been able to see it too. But I really liked losing spatial orientation. So there was no
Yeah.
up or down or left or right. And there was no difference between me and space. So yeah, I want to explore that more because that is there, but it takes a lot for me to get that relaxed. But the quiet part is fine. But I do want to do more directed visualizations. But also, at the time I was working 60 hours a week, so that was the point: is to have an hour where I'm awake with zero brain activity, conscious activity, in order to give my brain a rest, which it worked.
Totally.
I tried some techniques to achieve lucid dreaming, and it was actually starting to work. I don't remember why I stopped doing it. I should do it again. It was interesting, but they're pretty simple. Anyone could do it. One of them is to keep a dream diary by your bed and just start writing down all of your dreams in as much detail as you can remember as soon as you wake up. And like when you do that, you start to notice you actually dream a lot more than you notice, but you forget them. But writing them down immediately stops you from forgetting them. And another thing to do is to like when you're awake, routinely several times throughout the day, like ask yourself, "Am I dreaming?" And you answer, "No, I don't think I'm dreaming. It feels like I'm conscious." But like then make sure that you're conscious by look for some printed words around you, and then read them, and look away and look back. And if it's the same thing, you're in like true reality. If you're in a dream, almost every time you'll see it says a different thing the next time you read the same thing, and just keep on doing these practices, and then like eventually I read something and I looked back and it was like I couldn't remember what I just read, but it wasn't that. Like a second ago, it was something different, and I kept on looking back, and it was different. I realized I was in a dream, and
Nice.
I had a few times where I realized I was in a dream, and like I could stay in the dream and not wake up. It was fun, and one time, like I don't know if I had an out of body experience, but like I found myself in space, like
Nice.
just like floating and just being totally at peace. And yeah, it's fun. I encourage anyone to try it. It's easy to do those couple techniques.
One I would like to share is you have a bottle or a glass of water. Drink half of the glass of water right before bed, and leave it on your nightstand. And when you wake up, drink the other half of the glass of water. It with the intention of when you take the water before you sleep, I'm going to remember my dreams. And when you drink the water when you wake up, it's supposed to create like almost like a muscle memory. Like it's a way of enforcing that you're gonna remember that. It's like setting an intention and then following through on it. And it's similar to the diary, and it's actually great if you have that glass of water next to your dream diary, so that it 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 shows a cycle of completion. Um, I've done that. It works.
Nice. Um, I think this topic is super important for freedom, and it's not an obvious tie-in, but like I think seeing beyond the matrix that we're in is what one needs as a point of inspiration to realize, oh, like this is a false sort of, yeah, just reality that I don't need to participate in, and that realization, and also just whether it's through plant medicine or meditation or float tanks or lucid dreaming or out of body experiences, what have you. There's so many ways into the realization that like we're so much um, we our being is infinite and we're part of this bigger source experience that and like the reality that we're in is an illusion. And yeah, like that is important for freedom. Like it may seem like a detour, but these are solutions. What are your thoughts on that?
One reason it's so important for freedom is like a lot of people are in denial about their own state of a lack of freedom, a condition of slavery. And it should just be like a red flag, an alarm, and an alert. Like most people will acknowledge that free beings own themselves. Like when someone owns another person, that's slavery. And like to be free, we need to own our own body, our own mind. But if someone's telling you that because they're the authority, they get to say what you can put in your body, what you must put in your body, what you must not put in your body, that's a claim of ownership over your body. And a lot of these things they ban from going into your body are because of the effects they have on your mind. Like they argue that they're bad effects. I argue that they're good effects. They help you like acknowledge true reality, but they say, oh, they're dangerous. They're addicting. They'll make you go crazy. But if you're the judge of that instead of like the one who owns the mind, it's a claim of ownership over our own body, our own mind, our complete self. By saying like what we're allowed to put into our body and what we're allowed to put into our mind. It's so like once you acknowledge that, you have to stop lying to yourself. It's another proof that government is objectively slavery. It's not an opinion; it's a fact.
Darin, what are your thoughts?
It's 100% true. I mean, like the reason these chemicals are restricted is because of this bogus claim that the government makes on our body. And especially when it comes to psychedelics and plant medicine, it's that, certain chemicals lead to crime think, right? I mean, like, essentially, whether we're talking about meditation or psychedelics or other types of like yoga, um, essentially, we're talking about acquiring knowledge and being our own primary source. So when it comes to epistemology, there's many methods of acquiring knowledge. You have it you have deduction, like Sherlock Holmes was really famous for, like you exclude all the possibilities. You can deduct, you can also um, use inductive reasoning, interpolation. You can hear from a trusted source. Okay, in ancient India, they would call that shabda, hearing. From a legitimate source, you would have like uh, scriptures, or that was another one. Shastra Pramana is what they call it, like confirmation from the scriptures. But one of the ones in the Bhagavad Gita that's called the King of Knowledge, Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitramidamuttamam Pratyaksha Dharmyam Susukam Kartumavayam. It's this is the King of Knowledge, the secret of all secrets. Um, it's the supreme purifier, and because this knowledge, because Raja Vidya, because knowledge is acquired by direct perception of the self, it's everlasting and joyfully performed. That's like
Mm.
the I believe the second verse of the ninth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So he said this knowledge is the secret of all secrets, and its direct perception of the self by realization. That's what they don't want you to know, because that's the only type of knowledge that is immutable and everlasting and not dependent on something else.
Right.
Realization, self realization, and then self actualization. that's what they don't want. All the other types of knowledge can be manipulated, but direct perception of the self by somebody who has their faculties in order and knows how to think and process information right. It's not, you can't just think and realize whatever you want and have it be correct. But if you align yourself with certain moral principles and essentially objective reality of natural law, it shouldn't be that difficult. If you simply get your ego out of the way and don't try to manipulate your experiences by lying to yourself, you should just be able to arrive at the natural conclusion. So, like, literally, to know something is right or wrong, um, you really don't even have to be that smart. You just have to not be egoistic.
Yeah. I love everything you said. Yeah, like in my own journey, just making recommendations for folks that are listening. DMT was really helpful for me in literally, like, it was like putting on VR glasses. Like, as soon as I put them on, I'm like, oh shit, like I just saw all these like undulating grids, and I was like, this is what reality is. And like this, like, I've been wearing these, like, it's like they live, like I just wore these like fake glasses, and then I just saw how things actually were and how we're just like not tapped into that frequency in our conscious mind most of the time. So that was helpful. And just, yeah, just taking, like you said, the ego out of the picture, ego death, and then real actual like death. Like, I experienced that on a heroic dose of mushrooms. I no longer have fear of death. That's why when we talk about things like, oh shit, what's going to happen if, one doesn't pay taxes, or like, what, like, we can't form a militia because it's risky. Like, I don't give a fuck. I literally don't give a fuck, because I saw myself dead already. It's going to happen. It's completed. And like, time is an illusion. And like, here I am in this specific moment suggesting, and it's like, of course they wouldn't want people to
Right.
take heroic doses of mushrooms, because can you just imagine how, like, a populace not afraid of death, right? Like, there was this movie that I saw on the arc, going through the Haitian Revolution. I gotta
Yeah,
look
I
it
saw
up.
that.
You saw it too, yeah. And
Yeah.
like, one of the key factors in that revolution was a lack of like fear of death. They just didn't give a fuck. And
Fear
it's
is
like,
the most powerful
to
thing
be
to make
a
people
revolutionary, you
controllable.
have to not give a fuck, about your
And
own
death is the
individual
biggest
death.
fear.
Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
I just want to. I'll repeat it. I just said one thing really quick. That fear is like the most important thing to make someone controllable, and then death is the biggest fear. So yeah, that's why. Uh,
Yeah.
It's
that's
actually
why
the only
people
thing that keeps slavery in practice. Literally the only thing.
Yeah, and it's like, it's all about the first principle mentalism, right? Like, just everything starts, the prison starts here, and if we can, yeah. Does anyone else have any like specific experiences with plant medicine or meditation? Transcendental meditation was really huge for
For
me.
Salvia divinorum.
Tell us more. What is that?
Salvia.
Oh,
Salvia
salvia.
divinorum. The diviner sage. It's called in Mexico sometimes Scamaria pastora. In the early 2000s, I got this 40x enriched extract of it,
Whoa.
and it was like $80 for the gram of this shit. And I split it with like 2 or 3 other buddies, and we all got our torch lighters and our bubbler pipes. We took this rip, and I'll tell you what, my my world, it became a kaleidoscope. Like, I mean, I'm talking about like the radio in front of us, like the couch. First of all, it felt like I was blasting off in a rocket ship. Like when I tried to lift my arm, it felt like there was resistance bands pulling me down.
Okay.
I looked down and I started sweating, but I also saw like almost like when you see stars if you're lightheaded, except there were like beads of liquid like dripping down my shirt and then running into like the couch, which I was simultaneously a part of because I was not separate from my environment at that point. So like
Nice.
my arms like merged with the couch, merged with the sounds. I'm talking about like full synesthesia. My eyes are open, but I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at.
Cool.
Everything looked like almost like two-dimensional to where it was simultaneously flat, melting, and horizontal. Like there was like no difference. So like if you can imagine like a television that had like an old scrambled cable channel back in the day, like I was looking at it, but it made no fucking sense. It'd be like if you woke up upside down in a room you've never been in. You're just like, where the fuck am I and what is this? But I couldn't even think about where the fuck am I and what is this because speech was gone, and literally just witnessing like beads of light water roll down my shirt and then not be able to speak and just feel like I'm being compressed into like this like just a simple like unit of consciousness, like the it was pretty close to like a full like singularity of consciousness, and then they fucking banned it. That shit's like Schedule 1 now.
Yeah,
Can't wait to try it.
I've had a salvia experience. It's kind of big for me to talk about this online. I know I'm going to have a lot of family members who are going to really feel because my grandmother really was a precious human being. She didn't uh, learn a lot of the things that I've learned, and I think she would understand if I explained it to her. But she always said that if I was one of the people who smoked joints, it would break her heart. And I did try weed, and like I tried it when I was 14, and I liked it since then. It's true that I did get kicked out of the Navy for someone else's roach. I quit smoking the whole time I was in the Navy, but yeah, I have smoked weed my whole life. I've experimented with mushrooms and salvia and various plant medicines. I honestly think that my grandmother now she's like beyond the limitations of the physical world. Uh, if she's in some spirit world, she probably uh, she understands the whole truth of everything, and she no longer would be disappointed in me. But if other people have a problem, I don't know. They could like Mark Passio says, they could be as offended as they like. But yeah, I don't hurt anybody by experimenting with my own mind. But um, and marijuana, it was really helpful for me. Like when I started doing it every day is when I got straight A's in school instead of straight F's, and like made up all my credits and went to adult school and uh, got good grades finally in senior year. It's much better than the Ritalin and the Dexedrine and stuff they were giving me since I was in elementary school. Like I don't know if ADHD is a real thing, but yeah, I think marijuana gives me control over my own mind. It helps me focus on what I want to focus on. Working as an electrician, it helps me not lose tools and tangle wires all day. I don't want to get like too stoned where I'm impaired, but like, yeah, just a little bit of it daily, like, truly helps me just make peace of my own mind. But um, what inspired me to just get over my secret and say it online is I had a really interesting salvia experience as well. It was in the early 2000s, around the same time as you. Um, I got some from a smoke shop. I went with a couple of friends. Like they bought a bong. I wanted to try the salvia. My friends were really interested in it, but I smoked the salvia on the bong. Like took a rip. I didn't really feel anything. I took another rip, and then I had a similar experience, like a kaleidoscope. But I remember just saying, I'm confused. I want to get fresh air. I'm going to go outside. And I was on a second level apartment. I went out to the balcony and started. Actually, as soon as I went outside, I had a feeling of deja vu. And I remembered, like, wait a minute, this is what happened last time, and something bad happened. I've got to do something different. I'm going to go down the stairs. And then as soon as I went down the stairs, I remembered, like, this is what happened last time before, too. Okay, last time I turned the wrong way. Something bad happened. I'm going to turn left this time. And I turned left, and I saw like a police SUV and like a couple of cops, and one of them started talking to me. I started trying to talk back, and they were saying, "Stop resisting." I was trying to say I'm not resisting, but it all came out like gibberish. I was nervous. And next thing I know, the cop pulls out the gun and shoots me in the face. And then I like I just like was out of body. I was like forgot about like myself, Jeff. There was no Jeff. I was like the whole universe. I was in control of everything. Like I was just growing and like expanding, and everything was beautiful. And I saw like the most beautiful like fractal images like everywhere, and like I didn't need a body or a self or like it was just a beautiful oneness with everything. But then I remembered, oh shit, like there are individuals and then one individual, Jeff, is like dead in the gutter, and his family's all going to be crying. And I was like, wait a minute, like I don't accept this. Like I want to make some different outcome. And then next thing I know, like I just hit the bong, and uh, I was saying I need to go outside and get fresh air, and my friend was telling me, "Oh, hit this blunt, like you just hit this blunt and snap out of it." I was like, "No, no, I think that's what I did last time. I got to do something different." And then I kept on remembering. It was like the movie Groundhog Day, where like 1,000
Fucking
times,
awesome,
like I
dude.
lived the same experience of, no, I don't want to repeat those same actions, and I get shot in the cops. Then everything's beautiful, but then wait a minute, like I gotta go rewind. I gotta try again and do something else. And finally, I did hit the blunt, and I started to remember. Oh, I'm glad I hit the blunt instead of stepping out the door. And I've got like this great story to tell you. This is amazing what just happened. And my friends were just telling me like crazy, like I need to get help, and they just laughed. But like no one believed me, but like it's awesome. And like I got out of it that like like this whole experience, whatever happens, it is because it's what we want and it's what we create, and we create it to learn different things. But yeah,
If you
obviously,
read
like
other people's trip reports, people commonly report that like deja vu, feeling like you fucked up somehow, also getting lectured or scolded, usually by like a female character or a collective, like people like getting scolded or rebuked by like some like a queen or some kind of like female like matriarch figure,
Wow.
but also feelings of deja vu or whatever. But basically, I think what it comes down to is like basically, yeah, your repressed shadow self, maybe like the sacred feminine, repressed emotions, the universe kind of just yelling at you like, I'm alive, right? Like it's like everything's alive, and it kind of wakes you up to that and kind of dissolves those barriers between you and reality. So we lose touch with reality, we lose touch with one reality, you know what I mean, and we enter into like dream time. And but those those experiences are important, I think,
Yeah.
to let us know that like the things that we do in our everyday waking normal life have consequences and cause and effect, but also are not the only reality and are not like, yeah, they're not like the sum total of existence or experiences. Just like the light spectrum we see is like a tiny sliver of what's actually there on the electromagnetic spectrum. What we can perceive in our dimension, it would be solipsistic to think that we have a monopoly on all knowledge or the ability to experience everything. I mean, how do we know what there are animals that can see in the infrared and the ultraviolet spectrum. So we can't, just because we can't perceive what ultraviolet looks like or what infrared light looks like doesn't mean some creature doesn't know it like the back of their hand. So yeah, there's, I mean, to say that there's there's bacteria or there's animals that can only live at the bottom of the ocean, and if you bring them up they'll die because of the lack of pressure, right? So like, yeah, we don't know what it's like to um exist in every realm, but we should, I think it helps us humble ourselves a little bit. So you become fearless by being humbled. um you know what I mean? Because then you realize like, oh wait, I'm not the arbiter of truth. There is an order to the
Yeah.
universe. It's probably important that I don't fuck up. I don't want a bad trip in the next life. I want good trips. I want to wake up from this like it was a bad dream. I don't want to be the bad dream. It
Oh,
helps awaken you to the fact that life comes from life. The fact that we're alive means we come from a living uh, source.
well spoken. Yeah. It's so important. And I was also thinking about the beautiful experience you had, Jeff. I'm sure it didn't feel beautiful in the moment, but I have had similar experiences where like time is sort of in like caught in a loop, and um,
Beautiful and terrible at the same time. Like when I had the oneness with all, it was very beautiful. But then when I remembered about the condition of my body and my life, it was terrible. Sorry.
yeah, well, yeah, I was just basically dovetailing off of what you said, Darin, that yeah, like plant medicine can sort of get us out of our individual illusion that we find ourselves in this reality. And yeah, also I was going to add in my own experience, specifically with mushrooms, and in yours, Jeff, with salvia. Just like time is an illusion too, right? Like that we have this like specific sort of like linear illusion of time. I actually didn't get a chance to tell you both, but I experienced deja vu in this fucking podcast. I'm fucking sober. Yeah. So like I had
Okay.
this like experience where I was talking to two guy friends, and talking about like forming local militias and stuff, and I was like, I've had this moment before.
That's crazy
Yeah.
because I'm pretty sure like when I woke up this morning or this afternoon actually cuz it's my day off, I literally had a feeling that like I was on a podcast like in my dreams.
Wow.
Probably because there was a discussion last night before I went to bed, and then I read this book, which was the first book on like serious book on yoga I ever read. It's from the 1940s. When
What's
I
it
was
called?
reading, it's called Gems of Truth. I'll drop it in our Telegram. But
Yeah.
basically, like it. Well, we were talking about the involution or non-existence of the universe and like um the emanations, how like the monad and the duad, 0 equals 2, that, those type of equations, and like what happens, like, with energy or matter differentiation. And so I was going over that book. I actually downloaded it from archive.org, but that was the most powerful book that woke me up. And it's called Gems of Truth, first series. um, it's from the Gita Press in Gorakhpur, India. And I was going over some of the material there, and it's in a like a religious context, so it's biased towards like that particular tradition. However, so like sometimes, like when they refer to certain characters from like the Mahabharata or the Bhagavatam, like you might not know what they're talking about. But I was reading about that, and it said some great things about like that which is not real never comes into existence, and that which is real never ceases to be. So they're talking about,
Mm.
you know, spirit and matter, and the fact that they appear different and they may behave different in certain conditions. However, it really is false to believe that, like, they say, okay, so what is matter? Like in the Vedic, and later on, you could say it's also tantric too, because the teachings of the Vaishnava sect, they are tantric. They don't call themselves that, but they're right hand tantra. The Narada Pancharatra is in the Narada Bhakti Sutras. They are tantric Vaishnavism, and essentially, they believe that matter is the energy of God. So, like that right there, like, what do you mean matter is energy? And then they're like, but what is God? Well, God is the consciousness. So, and then they say that the matter was impregnated with life by God looking upon it. So the gaze of Vishnu is what impregnates matter with life. And that, you know,
Dude.
Like observation collapses the waveform.
right. And then
Yeah,
it's
the double slit experiment.
the
Yeah.
union of Shiva and Shakti, which which caused the physical manifestation of the universe, and that creates the five elements, which, and and then their properties, like, so from ether you have sound, right? And all the emanations that become like, so it's like matter. But they say like the energy, the Shakti and the Shaktiman, the energetic, I mean, they're really non-different. I mean, they expand, and they interact, but essentially they're all one thing, so that they're really not truly separable. And in that book, it was going into like how the yogis, some of them would, some schools of thought would say that matter is temporary. But if you get down to it, even if you're in a so-called immaterial state, I mean, that doesn't negate the existence of matter. It's more like your perception of it or not identifying with it.
Mm.
So basically, like, even though like there's sentient beings and less sentient beings, and then like inert matter, it doesn't mean that we're not still in the spiritual world.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, Mark Passio has said before, like, people always want to believe in a hard separation between the spiritual and the material worlds. And in fact, that school of philosophy, which is influenced by the dualist and the non-dualist schools, um, kind of believe in a simultaneous personal and impersonal existence of deity, right? Because we can't have individuality and conscious experience if it's not existent in one way or another in the source.
A conscious being or a life form is the connection between the physical and the non-physical realms.
Correct. Exactly. And that underlying consciousness, they call it the Paramatma, which is literally translated as oversoul or super soul. So basically, like, you can't always rely on subjective experiences because you can be wrong, you can be misguided, okay? But that's where objective morality and impersonalism come into play. Because if impersonally something is wrong, then personally it's also wrong. But if you strictly go by like a personal view of Godhead, you're prone to errors like being a charismatic cult leader, right? So then whatever
Yeah.
you say is true, you're the prophet, right? Let's just say
Mm.
you are a prophet or you have contact with the divine. Then what you do should be moral. And it should also be moral to like for somebody else who has no supposed contact with the divine but simply just lives objectively, like by objective natural law. There shouldn't be a clash between impersonal natural law and the subjective experience of a theistic, let's say, philosopher, right? So what's
Mm.
wrong is wrong, whether you believe in a personal deity or not. Stealing is wrong. So you never want to go strictly by subjective experience when it comes to things that are not provable or not demonstrable in the aggregate. Like, let's just say you hear a message or you channel a message or you have a mystical experience that guides your life in some way. That's fine, especially if it's not morally wrong. But there's no way that other people, it doesn't necessarily mean you have the right to direct or even inform other people on what they need to do with their lives.
Yeah.
But if you did, it should not conflict with somebody who did not have that mystical experience.
For sure. Yeah. I think I understand what you're saying. You covered a lot of topics, which is great. Um, Going back to, and I forget the exact terminology, but a lot of what you said resonated with the sort of modern concept of wave versus particle, right? And this, like, in quantum physics. So, yeah, so that was interesting. If we like swap out those terms, it aligned perfectly. So that was cool to notice. And then, yeah, in terms of just, we're becoming sort of spiritual teachers, but I always try to um, bring things like, this is my experience. Objective morality makes sense. Here's why. Here's how I've applied it in my life, and just sharing that and just leaving it out there in the hopes that it inspires other people to do their own autodidactic, process. Yeah. Trivium. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
Um, I don't know what to say right now.
That's okay. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to add to the topic of plant medicine, like, these compounds are in nature, for us to receive. And I think it's, yeah, the fact that they exist. Um, it's worth exploring, in one's journey, if one wants to, if one feels called. Yeah.
Terrence McKenna,
Totally. Yeah. I
Arrowwood.org, shameless plug. Everybody go check out Arrowwood.org and Terrence McKenna's work.
Yeah. I feel like we're on the cusp, you guys. I pulled a tarot card today, and I was just like, is humanity gonna fucking wake up? And let me. It's gonna describe.
Hold on one second.
Oh, totally. Go for it. Well, I'll wait till Darin comes back, but yeah, I'll share the tarot card that I read. Are you into tarot or any sort of thing like that, Jeff?
I'm very interested in it, but I've never played with the tarot deck. I'm not too familiar with all of the different cards, but I know that it can be something to teach you about your own consciousness as well as to divination and um, I, I don't know about it though. I have interest in it. Uh, I played Texas Hold'em a lot. It's a whole different deck of cards, but I was thinking that like the game of Texas Hold'em, like maybe I should like think it out and like maybe save it for a topic for another episode. But like I think there's patterns you can find in a lot of things. You could learn about many things from many other things, and like I think you could learn a lot about life in general uh, by the way Texas Hold'em works. Um,
Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean?
On my dog. Apparently, it was someone else's dog.
Do you want to finish your thought, Jeff, or maybe
no,
save it for
I'll
next
bring
time?
it up in the next episode. Like
Okay.
it was something I was thinking about, and I just remembered about that train of thought, but I can't remember all the like things that I observed about it. But uh, yeah, I just found a lot of patterns that are true in Texas Hold'em and true in real life as well. But
You gotta know when to hold them, know when
yeah,
to fold them, know when to walk away, know
yeah,
when to run.
like the songs.
I
Yeah,
listen to Gambler
that
all
too.
the
There's
time.
some lessons you could learn.
Yeah.
Uh, maybe I'll bring it up during this episode. Go on, tell what you're telling about the tarot.
I'm really fucking mad at myself because like this tarot fucking thing that I use on my phone, I forgot to screenshot it, so I can't tell you guys, but
You know,
I forget
do you remember the card?
I don't want to. Give me a second. Do you guys want to? Do you like tarot, Darin? You want to fill the?
You want me to try to find your card?
Do you have a deck?
Yeah, right here. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, dude.
Let's stare at the deck.
Hold up. Okay, hold on. All right, like I like to. Okay, what's happening? Am I doing it, or is Jeff? Jeff, do you want to do it, or shall we do it together?
Geri, I'm gonna try to see what card you pulled. Just look at the deck and think about the card you pulled earlier today.
You guys, I'm fucking freaking out
I
right
felt
now.
it in my fucking third eye when I'm
I'm
not
literally
fucking
freaking the
shitting you,
fuck
dude.
out, dude. Dude, that's so fucking. I'm not
Fucking
fucking
redact
kidding you,
that
dude.
video. I don't want to visit from fucking NASA or some shit.
Dude, I'm literally getting goosebumps. I'm not even fucking kidding you, dude.
I remember
That's
seeing that.
so
That was one of
fucking
my birth
scary,
cards.
man.
Remember in the group chat you were saying like go to this website and it will tell you your birth cards by your birthday. That was
Yeah.
one of them. I
Yeah.
think. I could be wrong.
I have no words right now. I can't talk.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm freaking out, dude. I'm not even fucking kidding you, dude. You guys, I'm not even fucking kidding. Like, literally, like, ever since I like aligned my life with natural law, really fucking freaky shit has happened to me. There's so many fucking synchronicities, and what just happened between Darin and I was so fucking freaky. I'm not even fucking kidding you guys. That fucking just happened. I'm so fucking freak. Oh, okay. Sorry. Keep going. Fuck.
Is this your card?
Shut up, dude. That's fucking crazy, dude. So yeah, okay, so like I'm kind of like not super well versed on tarot, but like are you more, can you interpret? So the question I asked, okay, so the question I fucking asked on my app, my tarot app, was, does humanity fucking stand a chance in freeing themselves from slavery? And I And the message that I got from the card was, yes, but you have to act. Is that magician? Yeah.
So you're saying, is that like a typical interpretation of the magician card?
Yes.
Because that was the card you pulled, right?
I can't remember if it was that or the Hierophant or whatever. Is that the same or no?
They're related.
Okay.
I believe the Hierophant is like the magician in the intermediate stage. Let's
But it was, what was freaky though, dude, is that it was like upright facing and it was like that major arcana and it was like a single dude. Like, yeah, like magician or Hierophant, one of the two. I can't remember exactly, but the way you held it up was so fucking freaky, dude. Oh, sorry.
This is a site that's pretty good. Spiritual wisdom, religious beliefs, conformity, traditions, institutions. The Hierophant is the masculine counterpart to the High Priestess, which in this deck was the one right behind the Magician, with Boaz and Jachin, the pillars.
Right.
So the Hierophant is the masculine counterpart to the High Priestess. He's also known as the Pope or the Teacher in other tarot decks, and is ruled by Taurus. He's a religious figure between two pillars of a sacred temple. Through this temple differs, though this temple differs from the one in which the High Priestess sits. He wears three robes, red, blue, and white, a three-tiered crown, both representing the three worlds over which he rules: the conscious, subconscious, and superconscious. In his left hand, he holds the papal cross, a triple scepter that signifies his religious status. He raises his right hand in a religious blessing with two fingers pointing towards heaven and two towards earth. So the meaning: Hierophant's task is to pass down the spiritual wisdom and initiate the two into the church so they can take up their appointed roles. This imagery speaks to a shared group identity and a rite of passage to enter the next level. The cross keys at the Hierophant's feet represent the balance between the conscious and subconscious minds and unlocking of mysteries which only he can teach.
Fuck. Okay, and then now what does it say about magician, dude?
The magician.
Because I asked the same fucking question just now with you. I asked, will humanity, so the exact question I asked was, will humanity save itself from slavery within my lifetime? That was the question I asked. And I think I got either Hierophant or magician, but I can't remember.
Yeah, let's see what the magician says.
Okay.
Magician. Major Arcana.
I just really appreciate you guys. I'm so grateful for this friendship and this podcast that we're doing this. This feels so nice.
You as well, definitely. I remember some of the things I was thinking about after this, I'll say.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Darin.
Okay, so magician upright can represents manifestation, resourcefulness, power, and inspired action. The magician is card number 1 of the major arcana. The number of new beginnings and opportunities. and associates with the planet of Mercury. He stands with one arm stretched towards the universe and the other pointing down to the earth. His position represents his connection between the spiritual realms and the material realms. The magician uses this relationship to create and manifest his goals into the physical realm.
Ugh.
He is the conduit that converts energy into matter. The magician's robe is white, symbolizing purity. His cloak is red, representing worldly experience and knowledge. On the table in front of him are the four symbols of the tarot suits: a cup, pentacle, sword, and wand, each symbolizing one of the four elements: water, earth, air, and fire. He's It's also a sign that he has all the tools he needs to manifest his intentions into being. Above his head is the infinity symbol, and around his waist is a snake biting its own tail, both of which signal that he has access to unlimited potential. And in the foreground is an array of foliage and flowers symbolizing the blossoming and fruition of his ideas and aspirations.
Fuck yeah. I'm feeling good about those two polls. The one that I did on my own that might have either been Hierophant or Magician. I think it was Hierophant. And
That's
then for you, yeah, I think I got that one. And then you pulled Magician for me for the same question. So that the two feel, yeah. Wow. That feels fucking good, yo. What do you guys think? Do you think we can do this the one
I'm
day at work?
definitely interested. I want to learn a lot more about tarot. I want to get my own deck and play with it. I'd like to take the time to draw my own deck as well.
So
But
Darin, you have like the go ahead. Go ahead, Jeff. Sorry.
no, if you have more to say about tarot, go ahead. Because I was kind of going to talk about the Texas Hold'em a little bit. And I don't remember I might want to talk about it on another episode too. I don't know if I'm remembering all the things I want to say about it, but after we finish this topic, I don't want to like jump all over the place.
Oh, no worries. I was just gonna say, I think with tarot cards, and correct me if I'm wrong, Darin, you need to be gifted a deck. Is that correct? That's what I was told by
I've
like
heard
one
a
of my
lot
witch
of
friends.
I've heard a lot of things about them, but I mean, I just went to a metaphysical shop and bought my deck.
That's like the classic deck you have, right?
Yeah, this is the universal white, which is basically just a slightly updated version of the Rider white.
I have one like I have like a moon. I think it's called the moon deck or some shit. Let me find a
Whether
moon
it's
deck.
just a superstition or if it's something that's actually giving it more power, I don't know if it takes anything away from doing it on purpose, but like, say if I buy one for you, Jerry, and you buy one for Darin, and Darin buys one for me, we could all get gifted a deck.
Yeah, and like so like, I'm wearing a shirt right now, but if I was wearing a shirt that was a gift from somebody else, I would say that shirt probably is going to mean more to me and be more sentimental and therefore more connected to me than a shirt that I purchased for myself. That would be the same thing as like, if I made a really good meal for myself, that's great, but if somebody made a really nice meal and then gave it to me, I think I would enjoy it more. So I think it helps. I
I
don't
think
think it's
also,
impossible, but I think it helps a lot probably.
Definitely sounds plausible.
well, it's also just like I feel like we leave traces of our energy on objects, and if something is given out of a generosity or just um, care,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
right. If I was waiting for somebody to give me a deck, I don't know if I'd ever get one though. So, you know what I'm saying?
I'll give you one, dude. I like this.
Thank you.
Jeff, So you can give one to me. I'll give one to Darin. Darin can
But
give one to you.
you know where I got my deck though? I
Where?
got it from a store that was owned by a guy that I went to elementary school with, like, and all the way through high school. So it's funny when I went into the store to check it out, where I got my tarot deck from. Like, I didn't know it at the time, but this was the store was owned by a dude that, like, I had known like pretty much my whole life,
Nice.
and yeah, one of my classmates, and then he did gift me some incense, so that was cool.
Hey, the only place I could think of off the top of my head where I could probably just like go in my local area and buy it is a local smoke shop. I think the owner makes his own incense. I don't know if he's a devil worshiper or not, but it's called the Devil's Workshop. But like, what if I bought the card from there? Like, I don't know. I should talk to him and get to know him. If he's like a devil worshiper, maybe it would like have some bad energy or something. Like,
Well,
I
the
don't want to buy it from there. But
the devil in tarot is not like a Christian devil, though. You know what I mean? But yeah, definitely a little bit sketch. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Darin?
Yeah, for the name of a business, I don't know. Like, Jeff, you said it's a smoke shop primarily.
yes, I think it's a smoke shop that's older than I am, but I've only been there a couple times in my life, and it's right down the street from me. It's not open a lot of the time, but yeah, I don't know too much about it. I remember talking to the owner, and I found out he makes his own incense.
Okay.
But I never asked if he's a devil worshiper. I should just go ask because I'm curious
I
now.
just named it that because he knew the fun police were gonna hate it anyway, so he decided, hey man, it's a smoke shop.
I'll check it out. If I feel like bad vibes, I'll get it from somewhere else. But it's a pretty cool shop, actually.
Also, like I was thinking if it's primarily a smoke shop, marijuana used to be referred to as the devil's lettuce.
Right.
So it could be like a play on that, right?
It's where all the bad stuff is, the weed, the tarot cards, Yeah.
Yeah, someone asked a really good question in our group chat about like, hey, like, do you guys remember about like some concern regarding like yoga poses?
I agree with your response totally. Like, just ask yourself, like, does it harm anybody? And if it doesn't, like, just feel free to do it.
What was that?
Yeah, exactly.
What was that? What did someone ask?
So someone in our class was asking in our group chat, like, I used to do mediumship. I, used to do sort of more esoteric practices, and I'm feeling kind of like, am I engaging in something that maybe I shouldn't be? And then I'm asking for a friend who wants to like maybe like do some yoga poses, and I was like, well, I didn't. Again, I'm not trying to like tell people what to do, right? So because everyone's sovereign, so I was just like, well, in my journey, I find natural law to be really helpful as a guidepost. Like, if you're not harming a sentient being in the practice, probably you're in the right to do it.
All the religions that accuse practices like that of being Satanism are projecting. Those religions themselves are denominations of Satanism, and things that could expand your consciousness and help you observe reality better, empower and free people are exactly what like religions are trying to keep us away from. They are doing the devil's work. That's why like the organized religions like are all denominations of true Satanism, which is like the force of death.
I just want to tell you some things that I make up and get your money from you. That's not okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the thing that they accuse the fortune teller of is the same thing that they're doing.
But it's all of them, if you subtract from them the things that are wrong and bad and like false knowledge, lies, advocating to harm other people, like like you don't do any of the bad things. What you have left is the knowledge that is true and useful and yeah, like every religion, despite all the religious organizations being denominations of Satanism, like every religion has a corresponding spiritual tradition, which is all the good stuff. If you just like you can practice everything from it except for the bad stuff, just like a country organizing and working together, like take the bad stuff out of it, it's not government anymore.
Right.
You know, take the counterfeit out of currency, and you have like gold and cryptocurrency. It's still something that can be used to like exchange goods and everything. Like the monetary system too. Take the wrongdoing out of it, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. Free exchange of goods and services and ideas. And I think, yeah, if someone's doing tarot or any other like spiritual practice, as long as they're not scamming anybody, lying to people, or, price gouging or in some other way saying, like, well, look, I got to remove this curse. So ask your mom if you can borrow some money so we can remove this curse. You know what I mean? Like, yes, there are hucksters and charlatans, everywhere, but I feel like somebody who's one of those type of spiritualists, for the most part, is not going to have a very successful career. I mean, some of them do, but they're few and far between. Just basically, if you get a reputation as a huckster, like people aren't gonna. I don't know. Joseph Smith, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there are actually, unfortunately, I don't know. I think people are really good, like John Edwards, the TV guy, the cold readers, the mentalists. I don't know. I think we all. The crazy thing is like a psychic with a crystal ball, like we're skeptical of, but we're not skeptical of a dude in a suit in the middle of the Capitol building talking about, infringing upon our rights with our permission for our own good with stolen money.
I had some interesting thoughts about the game of the poker. It's maybe not too much even deeper than even the country song, but like one thing I observed about it is with Texas Hold'em, like most of the people playing are competing against each other instead of competing against the house. The house takes a cut of the winnings, like a little fee for playing from the winnings, but the house doesn't take anything from you when you lose. When you lose, you're losing. Go to the winner. So I was thinking like. Because of that, like I have better odds because it's never a fair game when you're competing against the house. They have to make the odds in their favor to to ensure that it's going to be profitable. If they repeat the whole scenario over and over again, if the odds are in their favor, they're going to win more than they lose. They're going to make money. With Texas Hold'em, it can be like a fair competition because we're not competing against the house. The house makes money regardless because we're all competing against each other. And like I was thinking, like a lot of people, they're just learning. They're not that good, but I'm starting to understand the game. If I'm patient and careful, I could win most of the time. I could even like maybe do this as a supplemental income or something. And I was thinking, like, is it right livelihood? Like, where does this money come from? Like, what am I creating to make the money? Like, well, the answer is it comes from the people who lose. I take it, but I'm not taking from them. Like, they're playing this game by consent, and like, I've learned that if I lose money and like I get like a sore loser, get butthurt about it, get frustrated, and like I don't know, it doesn't do any good. But like I could think of it as like an education. Like, oh, why did I lose? Like, what decisions can I make different? Like, maybe I should pick more appropriate times to take a chance. And like, it's truly an education. Like I like. I've become good enough to win more than I lose by losing a lot to begin with. So like what I'm actually like. What service am I providing for the money that I'm getting is education. I'm teaching people like, but what am I teaching them? Just how to be good at this game, and it's a game about taking from other people, but it's more than that. Like it teaches you how to like manage your resources, like and there's the
You got
flop
better
turn the
odds
river.
too. You got
What?
better odds than the stock market, though. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's a skill. Plus, you learn some soft skills about like your intuition and reading people
Yeah,
as
there's a lot
well
of things
as
that are true for the game that are also true for real life. Like it has the cards that are down on the table that everyone shares. Those are like objective truth because that's like the same for everybody. But then, like,
right.
what can you do with that same truth, with that same objective reality that everyone shares? Like, like you got the cards in your hand, and the cards in your hand, they're like your own knowledge, your own skills. Like you combine your own knowledge and skills with the objective thing that everyone shares, and you see what effect you could get out of it. Like what's the combination of my skills and like objective reality? What effect can I get? And then uh, yeah, there's a lot of other things like when you play tournament style, you definitely learn like the value of like just being patient and like make a decision when it's a good idea to make a decision and like really think before you make a choice. Yeah, just a couple of things. There's a maybe I'll just instead of like trying to focus on it one episode, like maybe from time to time I'll think of some pattern that's or like some coincidence that's in Texas Hold'em, but it also applies to the way you live life.
I like it.
Um, I'm. I don't think that. I want to say this in a way that doesn't offend. So I don't think there's anything immoral, but at the same time, it could become a distraction from what's really important, right? Like for example, ESPN is like a huge distraction, and they do Texas Hold'em tournaments on there, right? They do baseball, they do basketball. There's nothing wrong with these sports or these pursuits. It's just that like just it can become a trap if we get too distracted. Does that make sense?
I like playing baseball or basketball or football. They're all fun things to play, and I think they're good for you. Like they exercise your body. I think Texas Hold'em exercises your mind. But I think the big trap is like instead of going out and doing it yourself, you just get addicted to watching other people and like identifying with the accomplishments of other people because they're from your local team or something, and like yeah, definitely like playing the game for entertainment. That's why I haven't played Texas Hold'em myself for several years. I just don't have the time to do it. There's more important things. Um, yeah, it could be like the bread in circuses, like the Romans said, like to stop the revolt, just like, give them the cheapest bread to eat so they're not hungry, and like give them the circuses so they're entertained. And sports are totally used as that, including Texas Hold'em, but like all of the sport, Texas Hold'em also. I'm not interested in watching on TV. I'd rather play a free game or a 10-cent game on the internet if I want to like get education about it, like. I think it's bad for you to just like get stuck being a spectator instead of just doing it. But like doing the things are less likely to be like that same type of bread and circus trap. But still, like if instead of doing something constructive, instead of doing the great work, instead of just doing the work to be independent in your life, if you want to just go play basketball every day, you might be like really fit. But like what do you get out of life? You just like a bunch of basketball games. There's a lot more to life than that. Same thing with Texas Hold'em. It's like, yeah, you don't want to use it as a distraction away from doing the more important things, but like as a hobby, it's something you could actually learn from. But
Sure,
no,
yeah.
it's not offensive at all. Like to point out, it definitely can be used as that in that same category as bread and circuses, figuratively.
Yeah,
Well,
just like the substances, right? Like there could be like a safe way and an unsafe way. Yeah, it's just one of those
sure.
things you got to be careful with. Just like really anything powerful or effective, uh, weapons, psychedelics,
Yeah, you could just
gambling.
be mesmerized by like the awe of like the psychedelic imagery, or you could like and just do it again and again and again, or you could do it once in a while and really analyze the experience and think like, what is there for me to learn from this experience that I just had, and like do it in moderation and like then you're not going to accumulate all the harmful effects of whatever you do. But sometimes in moderation, it's enough to get the good effects that something has to offer. So you got to find the healthy balance.
Yeah, for sure. I think, yeah, just having a balance, and I'll just share in my own life. Like I experienced some regret from devoting myself to things that don't actually matter, such as academic pursuits. I wasted my life on bullshit, like getting good grades, getting degrees, and like who gives a flying fuck? We're in a like spiritual war right now, and wasted a couple decades on bullshit. Not that it was wrong or immoral, but it was just not what I feel like. I have a purpose now, now that I have a pretty good understanding of natural law enough to talk about it for the rhetoric stage. And yeah, like there's just so many zombies, as we named our podcast, out there that
I just wanted to talk
need
about the name
awakening.
of the podcast. It's like another synchronicity. Uh, but like, and what I was going to mention about it was kind of a synchronicity. Like when I came up with the name, I wasn't even like thinking about this, but I actually had like a recurring dream for like probably like over a year before the whole pandemic happened, when there was like big scares that we're gonna have a big pandemic with the swine flu and the bird flu. I had a dream that I think it was the swine flu was turning people into zombies, and then like I had a lot of dreams about like fighting zombies, and um, some of them were more intelligent. They were like trying to like coerce me to be like one of them, and like some of them were just like mumbling and like they were fighting. For some reason, it wasn't scary. Like even though it was fighting zombies, it was exciting. It felt like watching an action movie, but I was there doing it. But yeah, it's kind of weird that after I had all those dreams, there really was a big pandemic, and I started to like think of a lot of the people who are mindless as zombies, and like uh, and then I started doing this podcast, and like because I was thinking of the people as similar to a zombie epidemic, like I named it that, but like I wasn't even thinking about the dream that I had, but it could have been like a predictive dream. Maybe that's a potential timeline. Like I think like the people who made the big pandemic were considering doing it over swine flu or bird flu. They just did it over coronavirus instead. Like, when you go to sleep, maybe you go into like another part of space and time. Yeah, yeah. Maybe some of the places you go, they're real, just like the awakened reality. And I don't think all dreams are like that. I think some dreams are just purely created by your mind. But um, yeah, so I think dreams could predict the future or a potential future.
Totally. I mean, Carl Jung believed that with synchronicity. That's kind of the synchronicity and deja vu come from like you having tapped into this collective unconscious, and then when something in your conscious mind links to that, that's where you get the deja vu feeling from. So like we yeah, I mean, I've had precognitive dreams that, like, for example, like a dream in which like I dream of a certain like place or a date or very specific words, and then they come up in my personal life.
Yeah.
So
It really is like
like
deja vu. I remember that first zombie dream. Like I was working in like on a construction site, building a big condo complex at the time, and I was dreaming that I was at work and like someone was like showing me on one of their smartphones like a podcast with the little squares with all the talking heads, and like they were talking about how like the zombie apocalypse has like reached North America now, and it started in Europe and stuff. But it it looked like this, like the podcast I'm looking at that I'm part of right now.
Hmm.
wow. Dude, I'm not surprised, man. Like it's awesome. Like I bet you that was a completely, predictive precognitive dream.
And we considered other names too. So just because you came up with it didn't necessarily mean it was going to happen, you know?
Right.
Um, so this is kind of a big topic. We can totally not talk about it, but I kind of want to bring up extraterrestrials. Is that okay?
Yeah.
We have 15 minutes ish.
I have a lot
We
of
really,
theories. I don't have a lot of experiences myself. I don't really have any experiences myself, but I'd like to hear more about yours.
yeah. We have to end at 3 hours just because certain platforms have a limit for the size of the file. So yeah, I was mentioning in our class last night that like, yeah, I I developed a heart connection through care and empathy with a human that had um, an extraterrestrial soul inside of them, and I connected with that extraterrestrial. And when I realized who they were, and I just saw into them, and I was like, holy shit, everything that they've been saying is real. And it just fucking completely shifted the entire paradigm. Like, cause like up to this point, I used to be really into like researching extraterrestrials and stuff, and like interdimensionals and all this stuff. Um, UFOs, and I kind of hit a wall in that I was like, shit, like this whole like paradigm between the Draco reptilians versus the Galactic Federation of Worlds, like are they, they're supposed to be this like messianic figure that's going to save us from our own slavery that we've imposed upon ourselves. That's bullshit. That smells like bullshit. And so I just kind of like dismissed it all. And then I met this extraterrestrial through this Telegram channel that one of our classmates introduced me to, Megan. And yeah, like I fucking, yeah, talked to the purported extraterrestrial, and then I just realized that for real, and it just fucking blew my mind, and I'm like, holy shit. And they're not here to, I mean, the mission is the same. We still need to be the ones, whoops, I just flipped my hair tie, the ones to do the work to take us out of our own shithole we've created for ourselves, so that's not changed But yeah, just like talking to an extraterrestrial about like, hey, what other civilizations have you seen that have gone through this experience? Like how did like what were the results of that and stuff. And so just like asking, even if they're not here to quote unquote save us, or like they're here, they can offer assistance, they can offer advice based on seeing other civilizations go through what we're going through. So anyway, thoughts, questions, comments?
I think we should, I guess, dedicate more time to that.
Sure.
Yeah, we can talk about it in the
It's
future.
interesting. I think it's interesting, and I don't want to like, cut it short without giving it more thought. But I want to say that it's cool. I think it would be like really solipsistic to think that there is no extraterrestrial life. That's just a diseased, delusional mind that'll dismiss that. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean life? Outside of Earth? Like, you're like a frog in the well. Like, come on, dude.
Even if
Course
there
there's
is
life.
another species that's capable of saving us that could contact us, it could be the case that they're not going to do it until we get over some of our own problems. Because the belief in authority is a mind virus that it could be a existential threat to them to even expose themselves to us. Like we could start like a practice, not like
You're right.
censorship, but
Like, we
but
didn't
like.
ask for help, so if they were to help us without our request, they would essentially be enslaving us, wouldn't they?
Yes.
Can you elaborate? What do you mean by that, Darin?
Yeah, like in Star Trek, for example, they had the Prime Directive to not interfere with the development of an alien civilization, especially ones that are like more primitive. And it
Okay.
also is a non-interference rule. But whatever. From science fiction to science reality, I feel like if an advanced race were to come down here and tell us we're part of an intergalactic family, we're not going to believe them.
No, that's
There's
not
going
the
to be
exact point I'm
people.
making. I'm saying that like we're brainwashed so bad, we're like persuasively trying to push the lies that we ourselves believe, and they're dangerous lies that like the lie that more objective morality does not exist, and beings could be authority figures over other beings. They might need to quarantine themselves from our influence because like our mindset is so dangerous. Maybe they're not going to reach out to help us because we're so dangerous because of the low level of consciousness that we're at. So like uh, I think there I don't think like the human modern human is like the apex of our evolution. I think that yeah, like there's no limit to like what type of great beings could evolve. I think there are really great beings who live great lives out there, and we could be like that someday. But like people say, like if that's true, why don't they come to save us? I'm just saying that could be like the reason that they it, like it's not really worth the risk to themselves to try to save us. We're probably not savable until like we save ourselves to a certain point.
Right. That's what I mean by like they could be, without even intending to, like, end up enslaving us, in that, let's say they give us certain technologies and then we stop
They have.
developing things for ourselves. Okay. Or they could give us technologies that we end up weaponizing and causing ourselves to go extinct. Okay. Or they come down here and large amounts of people commit suicide because they think they're evil. Maybe they're not evil, right?
Mm.
So you're going to have people starting to worship them. Then you're going to have people claiming to be them, right? Like there's going to be people who would put on makeup or somehow there. You have
Or
no
like the
idea,
royal families claim they're descended from
right?
Anunnaki.
the Anunnaki or divine gods of all different traditions.
It could be like catastrophically interfering with our society, even if they have good intentions. It'd be no different than, like, what if some well-intentioned people contact the uncontacted tribes in the Indian Ocean or in the Amazon? Even with good intentions, you could accidentally give them a disease. You could cause them to develop some errant religious ideas. You could cause them to hate us and go on some kind of hunting party. Like, you never know. So I think these other civilizations observe us at a distance for a reason.
Well, I think it's important, like, if they're sending ambassadors for us to represent the human potential, right? Like, many of us have a slave mindset, but some of us don't. And some of us are open minded and heart centered and want to connect and learn and collaborate and grow and support one another in our species or civilization specific journeys, right? Like, we
That's why
can,
they communicate with you, because you make a free will decision to communicate and interact with them. So I
yeah.
think that's probably, the good thing about it is those who want contact will get it. Will get it, you know.
Well, Dr. Stephen Greer is very interesting. I hear he might be like a psyop or something, but
He
like
is.
still like some of the things he says, like I think he might be on the right track, like about like some of these beings being so far away that like a craft can't travel that distance, but consciousness is the way to make connection with them. Like he got big groups of people who did something similar to what you were saying, like have like the
The
whole group.
CE5. Yeah.
Yeah. I, I, actually, I don't remember if that's. Are you saying that's the name of his group
The
or?
CE5 protocol that he
Oh, okay.
to
So
connect
like,
with.
so you're totally familiar with that, and you're still saying he's a psyop. Is what he's doing like some fake thing that doesn't work to distract people away from the thing that you were doing, or what do you know
The
about
thing
that?
I had, the issue I have with Stephen Greer's work is that he maintains that there are no negative extraterrestrials, and there most certainly are.
And
So
one more issue
that's
with him
wrong.
that's with a lot of people is like if you're telling like some essential component of the truth, like you should also be focusing on the main thing. Like he doesn't talk about objective morality and government being a fraud.
Yeah, the Pleiadians that I've connected with are, you know, open and receptive to concepts like objective morality, natural law, and so that was cool to talk to them about that. Yeah,
So did you talk to them through like a channeling, like
yeah.
or through
No, Telegram. Well,
or through?
also astrally at the same time.
Okay, but did you also say it was a person who like they lived their life as a human being, but their consciousness was like doing this incarnation from
Yes.
like they lived all their past incarnations as some alien species or something.
They have a Pleiadian consciousness in a human vessel, and I know it sounds crazy, but I felt it to be true, and it totally blew my mind once I realized they weren't full of shit. So, and I communicated with them verbally, but then I closed my eyes and I saw and felt them astrally. So, yeah, they're for real, dudes. They're for real. They're here and they're for real, and they want to help us, but not do the work for us.
Cool.
So,
Yeah.
and there's some negative extraterrestrial. So that's my one thing with Stephen Greer. He may not even realize that he's being manipulated. But there are most certainly negative extraterrestrials, negative interdimensionals out there. I have encountered them. I tried the CE5 protocol and communed with a very fucking negative entity that wanted to eradicate all of humanity. That's the message telepathically that I received. So I was like, oh shit. Like, that was my fucking first CE5 experience. But anyway, we'll end it here since it's 2:59. Any last words? We'll pick up where we left off on this topic. Darin, Jeff, you want to?
Yeah, we could edit these into shorter videos and make like shorter episodes, or do however you want on your channel. I'll probably like I was doing half-hour episodes. I might like cut them into shorter ones and make episodes for my channel out of this.
Any parting thoughts, Darin? Yeah, peace. Okay.
No, see you guys soon.
Okay.
Bye. Thank you.